with Nia Jax likely done with in-ring competition and Becky Lynch believed to be turning babyface. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for November 29th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Following WrestleMania 35, Sasha Banks was feeling burnt out after losing the women's tag team titles. With BT Sport, Banks would say in regards to that time, maybe 2019 I was at that WrestleMania when I was just like, whoa, I'm not nervous. I don't feel anything and this is Wrestle Freaking Mania. I couldn't believe it. The biggest fan, the girl that wanted this her entire life, didn't feel anything at the biggest show ever. I mean, this is every wrestler's dream to be here. And at that very moment, I knew that I needed to take a break and I was like, alright, I gotta go find myself. And I did. And it's the best decision that I ever made and I'm so thankful that I did. It's the energy that you feel. It's the feeling, the numbness that you feel of going out there and not feeling the crowd the same way that you used to and not feeling that energy from them. If you go out there feeling numb and there's no light in your eyes, if you can't perform at your highest good, even though I did go out there and I put 110%, I was not loving it. There was no light behind my eyes and I wanted to find that again because this was everything. This has been my life since I was 10 and I wasn't gonna let it kill me. So I was gonna find my light with it again. So I took my break and it's the best decision I ever made. It's the best I've ever been. With her on SmackDown, Sasha looks set to face Charlotte Flair for the women's title. AEW is looking to have their Revolution pay-per-view take place in the first quarter of next year, as Ringside News reported that Revolution's date and location has not been officially announced yet, but there are some strong rumblings. We were told the thinking is Sunday, March 6th at Orlando's Amway Center. The Amway Center has a lot of pro wrestling history already, and it is very likely to get more. With WWE releasing many since the start of the pandemic, Ring of Honor has recently let go of all of their wrestling talent to reinvent themselves. On Busted Open Radio, AEW's Bryan Danielson talked about the latest releases from both promotions. I was just sad. I guess what the hard part with all of it is, I think of is the people with the jobs. They're not going to do the full-time contracts or anything like that anymore. This is coming in a year when we've still got the pandemic going on. We've got a lot of people being cut from WWE. There's a ton of full-time jobs out there. People sign these contracts and they buy houses on these contracts. They think it's guaranteed money. Where that really hits hard for me is I was fired twice by WWE. It's funny because both times I was fired shortly after buying a new car. You have to think, none of these are nice cars and they're used cars, but in both of them I wasn't able to pay it off in full. The first time, especially in 2001 when I got fired, I had a $350 a month car payment. All of a sudden that car payment, I was having to work two jobs between that and insurance and all that kind of stuff. I had bought that car with the idea that I was going to make $500 a week for the next 3 years or whatever it is. All of a sudden you don't have that guaranteed money coming in. For Dynamite this week, Danielson will go one-on-one with Alan Angels as he looks to be gearing up for a showdown over the AEW World title against the champion Hangman Page. While Stone Cold Steve Austin is thought of as one of the greatest stars in pro wrestling, WWE Hall of Famer Kane would say on the Doug Collins podcast that Austin's rise to superstardom was an accident. I was there when Austin took off. That was kind of an accident. I don't think that anyone ever expected that he would achieve what he did. You look at Rock, you could tell early on that Vince thought that Dwayne had whatever it took to go all the way, right? When you think professional wrestler and you watch Steve, he's an old school professional wrestler, right? That's not necessarily a recipe for success with the way that Vince was taking things. But Steve was able to take it and he was the right person at the right time and he had the right character at the right time and was able to tap into that. Everybody hates their boss and wants to give their boss a stone cold stunner, and he did it. When talking about the promo segment between CM Punk and MJF on Dynamite last week, Jim Cornette would note on his podcast how AEW can blow WWE out of the water. It is just pro wrestling without any physicality at all. The first step of pro wrestling is to get people interested in their personalities. The second step in pro wrestling is to get the personalities in conflict with each other, where the people want to see them fight before the fight actually happens. And the third step in pro wrestling is to let them have the fight and sell tickets to it and pay-per-views and garner ratings. I was flabbergasted to see that you do not see anything real or legitimate or well done in anything done by WWE, because even if they had anybody that could talk like this, they do not allow them. This is where AEW can easily blow the WWE television programs out of the water with genuine and entertaining promos, because this is the only place where the talents are allowed to do them, and honestly, how many places have guys that can talk like MJF and Punk? Right now, CM Punk and MJF have one of the hottest rivalries in pro wrestling, as it should be a treat to see how this plays out. After coming out on top at Crown Jewel against Lashley, Goldberg reportedly has one more match left on his WWE contract. WWE champion Big E has talked about facing his childhood hero for that final bout. On the 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff touched on working with Goldberg, explaining why it was challenging. That is really a difficult one. I believe on a consistent basis, I'd have to have been Bill Goldberg, not only necessarily in a bad way, just that Bill was a very intense person, emotional, and stuff not have a lot of experience, and was pretty uncomfortable in a pro wrestling environment when he first got there. So because of this, you take someone who is an intense personality, a very intense personality, a bit of a perfectionist who puts a lot of pressure on himself, but also lacking a lot of the comfort that comes with experience. You get a guy that is a little hard to handle, or sometimes a lot hard to handle. That is not necessarily a bad thing. That is simply the thing. On Busted Open Radio, Tommy Dreamer recalled the ECW One Night Stand event from 2005, where Vince McMahon was not open to including Paul Heyman on the show. Still, Dreamer talked him into it. I always got along with him from early ECW when we were having secret meetings. And I mean, Vince is the first person I ever heard in pro wrestling. He was doing the commentating when I first saw my first ever match. I remember the first day when I actually went to WWE with the whole alliance, and Paul was giving Vince an earful, and Vince was kind of having a heated discussion. He looks at me and he's like, "How did you deal?" And I go, "He's your problem now." So that was like kind of set the tone. I've had, one argument with him, but the rest were, and for a lot of people, it's pick and choose because the guy is so busy. But I've had nothing but great experiences with Vince. I worked in the office. I literally shared the office next to him, which the only thing I didn't like was he would keep his office so cold, hence my office would be cold. And I'm a heavyset guy. I normally like the cold. On Dynamite last week, Cody Rhodes would make his entrance for an 8-man tag team match where he was booed heavily by fans. During the bout, he threw his weight belt to the crowd, which was thrown back into the ring. On Keeping It 100, Conan touched on Cody being rejected by fans. You know how Cody Rhodes' opening is really long and drawn out. The fans booed that whole thing. I was like, holy sh**, at least show the guy. They were letting him and the company know, this. It is honestly a strong message they are sending. They open up the thing, he comes out, and they boo the mess out of him. He smiles like I think he believes he can charm fans back into liking him. He is not Dusty. Then the biggest sign of disrespect, like in sports, when you throw the baseball bat, he threw his belt out there, a babyface, and they threw the belt back into the place, and he put it back on. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you reminding people? That belt has heat. Cody appeared to tease a heel turn after this went down, so we'll have to see if Rhodes goes back on his word and becomes a villain in AEW. Becky Lynch made her return to WWE at SummerSlam in controversial fashion as she defeated Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's title in seconds. On the Wrestling Inc. Daily Podcast, former WWE referee Jimmy Corderas gave his take on the situation, saying he believes that Lynch will return to being a babyface after not being accepted as a heel. That's how it felt. That promo at the end afterward felt so genuine, and you felt the emotion coming out of Becky. That's what makes me question where they go moving forward with this. Is this WWE saying, listen, the fans are not going to accept Becky as a heel. Regardless of what she does, they're going to cheer her. So let her go back to being the love superstar that she was before. So maybe this is transitioning her back to the babyface role. The fans, let's face it, they want a babyface Becky. That's the feeling I got from her because I felt sorry for her. Listening to her talk about Charlotte and the betrayal and the backstabbing and whatever it was that went on, the babyfaces are the ones that gained sympathy, not the heels. With Liv Morgan being the #1 contender to the Raw Women's title, Becky Lynch looks to retain her championship in this feud. AEW commentator Jim Ross is dealing with a case of skin cancer as he will be stepping back from his role in the company for the time being. He recently went on Twitter to give an update to fans as he posted a photo and wrote, "Radiation treatment #1 in the book, 21 treatments remaining." With his return said to be on December 29th, we hope JR is able to make a full recovery. With him not being a stranger to making an odd post or two online, WWE legend Marty Jannetty recounted a wild night as he posted a picture with a young woman and said, "If you look closely, you can see skin under my nails. Black girls know how to make you do it right, and all night. I have an addiction I just can't fight. I gotta go get it every night, and when I do, I think I'm through. Here she comes for another bite. LOL, yup." While it was previously noted that former WWE star Nia Jax could be getting a new ring name, she has taken to Twitter to add clarity to the situation. Newsflash, Lita is my real name. It's not another ring name, it's just my name. The name given to me at birth. Calm down, trolls. In all fairness, opponent Crippler would be a solid front runner if I ever decide to wrestle again, but it's highly unlikely. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.